Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Anne-Marie. Today I'm sharing a video which is part of a video hop for Altenew celebrating their new Vintage Galore release. I will be showing you how I created 4 cards using the Golden Days and whimsical Peony sets. For my first card, I hot foiled the large rose image off screen. Now, it's not essential to use a hot foil plate if you don't have a hot foiling machine, as the stencils are really detailed, so just using the stencils alone will create an amazing rose with a more subtle, I guess almost ethereal look. And you could always use some shimmer spray if you wanted to at the end to give your flower some more sparkle. So I'm starting off by ink blending the lightest color, yellow, which is Citrus Burst, and I'm ink blending that over the whole flower. Concentrating a little more in the middle to give a bit more shading. I'm then going on to the next layering stencil, and I'm using Sunkissed ink to add some darker details. I like to secure my stencils when I am stenciling with some washi tape or purple tape, whatever you have on hand, just so that it doesn't slip. These stencils are really easy to line up and they give a fantastic result at the end. Now there are 4 layering stencils in this set. Going on to a more detailed layer, adding more color, slightly darker each time, using the same color but pressing a little harder, ink blending a bit more, and then adding in some Sunkissed again to the details towards the end of the petals. I'm concentrating in the middle once again to give some darker shading there, and the pink pearl that I've used on the edges I just think gives such a beautiful effect at the end. It gives a lovely two-tone effect. Just look at that, it's just amazing. These stencils are incredible, and you'd get a beautiful look without the hot foiling. I'm going back to the center with the next layer, adding more details, changing my colors as I go, and mixing between the 2 colors to give a beautiful effect at the end. For my sentiment for this card, I used the Essentials Sentiment Set, Strip Set 3. I wanted to make a happy birthday card for a friend, so I'm going ahead and stamping that on white cardstock. I'll be layering a black piece of cardstock behind the sentiment, and then also using a black layer for my behind my panel to give it a bit of a border. Going on to a second card using the same Golden Days hot foil plate and the 4 layering stencils. I wanted to try different color ways, so I am using the Sugar Plum set of colors. The colors in the Sugar Plum set are pale mauve, which I'm using here on the base layer, and just very lightly applying the ink evenly all over that layer. Lifting that off and then placing stencil 2 in place. Sometimes you have to jiggle around a little bit before you find that exact spot, but they do line up pretty easily. And I'm securing that again with some purple tape. Taking the next color in the Sugar Plum range, which is Amethyst, and applying that, concentrating on the details. And when I'm happy with that, I'll then go on to the next layer. So you see the two-tone effect so far. When you go on to layer 3, you're going to have even more detail that will appear using the third color in the Sugar Plum inks, which is called Grape Agate. I really enjoy ink blending. I find it quite therapeutic and relaxing, and I can make lots of cards with the same set in different colors so that I have a lovely stash for birthdays. Just look at that, it's just gorgeous as it is. But there is another layer, a fourth layer with darker details, and I'm going to use the darkest color in that set called Plum. Just concentrating more towards the middle and just those outer shadows. And there you have a beautiful purple toned rose. I did go into the center and add the darkest plum color as darkly as I could to finish that off. And there is the yellow rose, some photos of that, matted onto a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 card base. The purple one I matted in silver, and I used silver embossing powder for the sentiment. Now let's go on to the next two cards that I made, this time using the whimsical Peony hot foil plate, which I hot foiled before I started. I wanted to use a different technique, and this time decided to use my 14 pan metallic watercolor paints. Now I'm not using a watercolor cardstock. This is a normal black, about an 80-pound black cardstock. So I'm using very little water. The stencils are easy to line up in between the hot foiling, and I'm using various colors in pinks and purples from the set, and I'm just using the stencil, holding it in place and coloring it in effectively. And I actually found this worked. I hadn't tried using the metallic inks through a stencil before, but actually it gave quite a pretty good result. So I've used two colors from that set. And for the second card, I used my dye inks in lovely hot pinks, magenta, a light baby pink to start, and fuchsia in the middle. Following the layering guide, each set comes with a very detailed and easy to follow layering guide. And I just take my time to line each layer up, follow the guide, and add the color. So when I was happy with the coloring for this flower, I then went ahead to add the card to a card base. For the black card, I used some pink pearly coloured cardstock that I just had in my stash, which happened to match the flower pretty well. I've used the scalloped edges, creative scalloped edges die from Altenew on the left and the right side, just so that some of that pink pearl cardstock would show on either side. And then for the sentiment, I'm using the Essential Sentiment Strips die set. I use this set a lot. I find it very useful for a quick sentiment. I like to be able to add a colour from the card underneath the main strip to bring in the same colour again, and that's what I'm doing here. I'm using a little bit of that pink pearl. The sentiment strip is cut with black cardstock, well, with the pearl and then the black cardstock underneath it, so that the actual word will show up well. This is one of my favourite sentiment die sets that Altenew has. I use it very, very frequently. So I'm just trimming off that so that it fits nicely behind, and then I will go ahead and glue the two pieces together with some liquid glue. Just gives me a little bit of wriggle room. I'm using my tweezers to help me place it correctly, and then I will get some instant dimension foam tape and trim it down and add it to the card, so popping it up with the foam tape on the card. And I'm quite happy with how that turned out. So just using my T-ruler, which I find very useful to make sure that the sentiment is nice and straight. So there is a look at a finished card. You'll see very little warping because I didn't use much water when I used the metallic paints. I'm finishing off choosing some sentiments from the new Sentiment Strips 3 stamp set. I'm using my Missy tool, and I'm going to be able to stamp a few sentiments at a time, which is a bit of a time saver. In fact, you could easily stamp the whole set if you wanted to make some extras ahead of time. I'm going to use my anti-static powder tool, and then the top sentiment I'll use black ink, and the other 3 sentiments I'll use antique silver embossing powder as well as antique gold. Then on to trimming them with my paper trimmer. I'll cut them close, trim them up as required, and pop them up with some instant dimension foam tape and attach them to each card until I'm happy. So that finishes my 4 cards today. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope I've inspired you to create some cards of your own. Don't forget that Altenew offers prizes, so please leave a comment at the bottom in the comments below, and you may be lucky enough to win a prize. I would love it if you could hit the subscribe button and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any future videos. Thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you have a lovely crafty day. Bye for now.